The RX 7900 GRE was one of AMD's greatest mistakes. We are talking about a 16GB card that is equal to the 4070 Super and can even get close to the 4070 Ti in some benchmarks, all for an MSRP of $549. And some of its models even went on sale for as low as $520. And just like Nvidia with their 1080 Ti, AMD will not make that mistake again. The 7900 GRE has been out of stock for the last few months, and AMD has stopped producing them altogether in late 2024. And why is this, you might ask? It is rather simple. Why buy an overpriced new AMD GPU when you can have a Chad Rabbit at top value? It was just too good of a deal, and it had to be killed. AMD decided it was rabbit season, and that was that. And while this is a common practice for GPU manufacturers near a new generation's launch, it just feels like AMD stopped making them a little too early. But then, the GRE was not created for the Western markets to begin with, so I guess we should be considered fortunate for having them as long as we did. In fact, it is a Chinese exclusive model. GRE stands for Golden Rabbit Edition, and it launched in China in July of 2023. But the rabbit could not be contained to China, just like the Silk Trade. The 7900 GRE came out to the West on February 27, 2024. That is right, this GPU did not even last 12 months in the West before AMD had it deleted. While not all are as impressed as I am by this GPU, I personally think it was one of the best valued 1440p GPUs you could buy in 2024, especially when it was on sale. And it has such an amazing name, and the fact it was never meant for the West makes it feel special. And I need to feel special. And because it was such a great value and such a special card, it makes sense AMD had to stop producing it as soon as possible to ready people for their new 9000 series, if that even ever comes out. AMD never misses a chance to miss a chance. But I doubt any who would have bought a 7900 GRE in late 2024 would be looking to upgrade, so AMD killed it. The few 7900 GREs still being sold, like on eBay, are being listed for insane prices. So it makes you wonder, why are we making this video and review on a GPU nobody can buy and that is basically extinct? No, I mean, I am really asking. Kat, why the f*** are we making this video?
You said, and I quote, "You make me do one more motherfucking B580 video, I will literally commit toaster bath."
Ugh, whatever. The cat liked the 7900 GRE so much, she bought 2 of them. Why, you ask? Hey Gremlin, they are asking why. Why did you get 2 different rabbits?
Oh, that's because I like to collect shiny things. And the Sapphire Pure looks so good. And the other one was made by a company named ASRock. How could I resist? ASRock? Do you have an ASRock GPU? I didn't think so, robot. I was helpless.
We will be testing this GPU with the Ryzen 7900X and 32GB of DDR5 RAM. The PC specs will be in the description so you can look more closely. We will also be using a 1440p 180Hz monitor. And oh yes, Saya worked so very hard on this video when we were starting on it. She put close to 9 hours in before the idiot realized her RAM was not overclocked to 6000 MHz. Instead, it was at 4800. For those who do not know, this can cause a difference of around 20 FPS in some titles, so it is a big deal. Those results will not be included in this video, but sometime in the future when we make a video about the importance of RAM. Stay tuned for that. Without further ado, let's get on to the benchmarks. We started Marvel Rivals on its low preset with no frame gen and no FSR superscaling. I wanted to see, as an esport title, how well the 7900 could perform in this game at 1440p. On the low preset, we averaged 147 FPS, with a minimum of 105 and a max of 193 frames. Even on the lowest preset, the game graphically still looked good. And the cat really enjoyed herself, so there is that. Switching to the high preset with FSR upscaling set to quality, we averaged 116 FPS, with a minimum of 81 and a max of 176 frames. I did not try with frame gen here since I figured most would not use it with a competitive multiplayer game, and that is fair. And our performance was already solid, so I did not feel the need to try it. What am I even supposed to say here, sire? We obviously know this GPU is exceptional at 1440p. Maybe if it was 4K I could understand. But what is even the point of this video, I swear to God, if... Running Fortnite on all its epic settings, we averaged 93 FPS with a minimum of 53 and a maximum of 128 frames. It should be noted that all epic settings is what Fortnite defaulted to when using the graphics auto set feature. Unlike Fortnite's confidence in the B580 to run in full epic, the GRE actually could. But while this was a playable experience, in our last benchmarks for this game, a wonderful viewer gave us a suggestion, and that was to turn off virtualized geometry. At least I think that's what we were supposed to turn off. Either way, turning it off and still running the game on all epic settings, we saw a huge change in performance, and the game still looked the same in my opinion. With these new settings, we averaged 156 FPS with a minimum of 59 and a maximum of 210 frames. What a difference that was, so thank you for the suggestion. So now you know how well the 7900 GRE can run Fortnite. Now you can close your eyes and pretend you have one, and you will know how well it will run Fortnite inside your head. Who needs DLSS when we have our own graphic card frame generation in our imagination? Quickly someone patent that before NVIDIA gets any ideas. We ran Indiana Jones on its high preset. For those who do not know, Indiana Jones has built-in ray tracing that cannot be turned off. So on the high preset, and with the game's default ray tracing, we averaged 91 FPS, with a minimum of 29 and a maximum of 142. I know that may not seem super impressive, but I was impressed, especially the performance of the start of the game, which feels like a graphical tech demo by the game's developers. After weeks of testing the Intel Arc B580, I was not ready for this game to run as well as it did. And that makes sense because this GPU is twice the cost of the B580's MSRP. But we are not here to talk about the Battle Mage, we are here to talk about a GPU you cannot buy. Wait, that does not really clear things up. The Battle Mage still kind of fits into that category, and so does the 5090 and 5080. Okay. We are not here to talk about a Battle Mage, we are here to talk about a GPU you cannot buy and has rabbit in its name. There we go, that clears it up. We spread democracy on the high preset in HELLDIVERS 2, and we averaged 99 FPS, with a minimum of 87 and a maximum of 117. I have nothing really to say here. There is no drama. There are no issues with this GPU, no mysteries, no wonderment. It is just a solid 1440p GPU. This video is not even an endorsement, because you cannot buy this GPU anymore. It is extinct. In fact, I would not be surprised if the GRE shows up in Jurassic Park at some point. Perhaps John Hammond can recreate the 7900 GRE after finding it stuck in amber. Maybe you can buy it after that, and this video will have value. The cat was so preoccupied with whether or not she could make tech videos, she didn't stop to think if she should. At any rate, you can spread democracy on this Chinese exclusive card. Cyberpunk is a game with various settings and preferences. You can mix ray tracing with superscaling and frame gen, or run the game with none of those things, or all of them. Running the game on Ultra with no FSR or frame gen and no ray tracing, we averaged 102 FPS, which I think is pretty solid. Of course, our performance will dip a lot with ray tracing, but on the low preset for ray tracing, and again without FSR or frame gen, the GRE averaged 83 FPS. Not a bad showing for mid-range AMD GPU that you can't buy. As always, we have a wonderful graph for all the settings and their average frames per second. Warning, you are about to be flash-banged. And there you are, let there be light. Feel free to pause for as long as you need, and to admire this wonderful graph, and perhaps burn it into your cornea. We ran Hogwarts Legacy on all of its ultra settings and with ray tracing on. Running around the castle and exploring all the popular spots, we averaged 109 FPS, with a minimum of 46 and a max of 139. I am not only impressed with our GRE here, but how much Hogwarts Legacy itself has improved since its own launch. When it launched, it was an unplayable, stuttering mess that even the 4090 could not run well. And here we are with all of the highest settings on and averaging over 100 FPS in the castle. But when it launched, the real FPS eater was in Hogsmeade. Heading over to Hogsmeade and running around the town, we averaged 107 FPS, with a minimum of 60 and a maximum of 131 frames. Again, there are no issues here, and from the GPU's end, I did not expect any. This is like testing an RTX 4070 Super. It's going to be a solid experience, and you already know it is going to play everything you can throw at it. You know what? F it. I am going to force some drama and suspense. I hope you are all ready. EA is one of the worst game companies and should be ashamed for shitting out the same slop year after year. Every single microtransaction chips away at the hard work and love that developers poured into their games before EA bought them out, and destroyed their legacy with greed and contempt for the fan bases that gave them power and wealth. EA, may you choke on your own greed and learn the hard way to not bite the hand that feeds you, you son of a bitch. We ran Battlefield 1 on all of its highest settings, and once again, MSI Afterburner would not work with Battlefield, and I could not refine the fix I found last time to get it working. Thank you, EA, for your amazing cheat engine. Out of the urging of many commenters, I will be looking into PresentMon for future videos so that I may have an alternative when games don a wall MSI Afterburner. Luckily, AMD has their own built-in benchmarking tool through the Adrenalin software. In Battlefield, our FPS ranged from 172 to 200. Mostly, though, we sat close to or right at 200 FPS. As much as I would like to build more suspense here, there is none. Besides issues with MSI Afterburner, the game played very well with our GRE. The cat also apparently mastered the art of standing so still that no enemy could sense her presence. Just look at her go. Imagine if she could aim, she would be unstoppable. Right, well, that is enough of that. Moving on.
Dude, how long have you been standing there?
An hour.
An hour?
Are you serious?
I've mastered the ability of standing so incredibly still that I've become invisible to the eye.
We ran into some issues with Grand Theft Auto 5. Yes, finally, some drama and suspense. I am excited, let's get to it. Our issue for GTA 5 was that it ran too well on the 7900 GRE. Oh, for fuck's sakes, that is the issue? I was hoping for some issues with the card itself. Come on, cat. You have to give me something to work with here. Nothing? Fine. The issue with GTA 5 is that if it gets too much FPS, the game will stutter. So running GTA on all max settings and no VSync, the game stuttered horribly, and I would not recommend it. But VSync was also causing stutters, but I think that is because our monitor's 180 Hz refresh rate is within the threshold that can cause GTA to break, and that is around 150 to 180 plus FPS. So I lowered the frame cap from 180 to 170. And while the stutters were not as frequent, they still happened. I could have lowered the frame cap more, but I did not want to use VSync if I did not have to. Our solution was to turn on MSAA to ×8, which eats FPS for breakfast. Finally free of using VSync, and with all its settings to max, we averaged 92 FPS, with a minimum of 49 and a maximum of 131 frames. I'm sure you can tweak the settings a bit to get higher FPS, and still no stutters, but the game was playable and looked good, so I did not bother. If GTA itself did not have issues with higher frames, there would be no issues here. GTA is actually nerfing our 7900 GRE. In World of Warcraft, we moved the setting sliders to max, which is 10 out of 10. I separated the benchmarks for WoW into different categories since WoW can be an unoptimized mess, and performance can change so drastically depending on where you are in the game and what you are doing. First, we will look at the performance in the main expansion city. Secondly, we will see the performance outside of the cities. And third, we will check our performance in raids. But most importantly, and what any WoW player should prioritize when choosing a GPU for their World of Warcraft gaming needs, is their hardware's ability to zoom into a rock. That is right. And as you can see, our GRE is an absolute champion at zooming into a rock in World of Warcraft. I mean, just look at that raw performance. That is not DLSS. That is not FSR. There are no fake frames here. That is just peak gaming performance. Jensen, please remove your leather jacket, for we have peaked. We have soared to new heights previously unknown to mankind, and we have toppled the endless charade that is existence. Ladies and gentlemen, meet Rock. In the expansion's main city, we averaged 166 FPS, with a minimum of 79 and a maximum of 190. Although admittedly, the main spot in the city was not as busy as usual, so FPS might have been a little lower otherwise. Moving outside of the city and flying around outside, we averaged 224 FPS with a minimum of 75 and a maximum of 333 frames. RAID performance can vary greatly on the RAID itself, and/or the RAID size and RAID boss fight. So take these benchmarks as a light estimate. In other raids, they may be higher or lower. But in the raid we participated in, we averaged 110 FPS, with a minimum of 56 and a maximum of 226. Since the city was not as busy as it usually was, I headed to an event area to see how our performance was, and we averaged 110 FPS. The 7900 GRE has no issues playing WoW, and I would highly recommend it. I would also recommend being rich, but reality is often disappointing. I started testing Red Dead 2 in its own built-in benchmark. Running on all ultra settings and with no MSAA on, we averaged 111 FPS, with a minimum of 102 and a maximum of 137. Turning on MSAA, our average dropped to 69, nice. Moving into the actual game and with MSAA off, we averaged 111 FPS, with a minimum of 95 and a maximum of 128. And we started out in a town this time, so Sire would not spend 30 minutes lost in the wilderness trying to feed the wolves. How exciting! We got to see the FPS in a town right away this time. And of course, Sire started a fight. And as it turns out, cats do not always land on their feet. Very smooth, Sire, very smooth. For our last test, we will be comparing our 7900 GRE to other GPUs, and we will accomplish this feat through the use of Furmark. Running the 1440p benchmark, our GRE scored 10,896 on Furmark VK. For reference, that gives us a 400-point lead over a 4070 Super that appeared on the same test. Feel free to pause here as we scroll through the list and see how our GPU stacks up against the competition. It should be noted that different CPUs and RAM configurations can help the score, so keep that in mind. For our next benchmark, we ran once again at 1440p, but this time Furmark GL. For this bench, we scored 11,621. Once again, we beat the 4070 Supers that took the same test. There are a few B580s on here, and we doubled their scores. Which makes sense, since the B580 is half the cost of the GRE. The math just checks out. At any rate, feel free to pause and look closer at how other GPUs are performing on these tests. Although you can't buy this GPU anymore without paying an insane scalper price, if you can find a solid deal for a new or used one, I wholeheartedly recommend this GPU. It is an amazing card, and at 1440p and with its 16 GB of VRAM, I think it will hold its value well. Although, I do have an idea. I have not tested this card at 1080p, and if the Intel Arc B580 has taught me anything, it is that you can never assume something will just work, even though it logically should. If you have not tested it out, how can you really be sure? Assume nothing and take nothing for granted. So that is it. We can test out the 7900 GRE at 1080p, and we can ask the question that nobody asked or wanted to know, and that question is, does AMD's extinct GPU work as well at 1080p, and is there driver overhead issues? If one great 1440p card can ruin my trust, why can't another? That's it, we got our drama, we got our YouTuber plot. Watch out for that video in the future. As always, thanks for watching, and make sure to like and subscribe.
I have a YouTube membership now, so that is a thing. Either way, make sure to like and subscribe, and thank you so much for watching and supporting my content. I'm about to do some cringe stuff now, so turn away if you're squeamish. Ready? Yeah. Oh, meow. Arr! Now put the woos in the back and no one gets hurt, meow. Yeah. Wah ha ha. Yeah. God, I'm so cringe. Arr! Meow. Yeah. Yeah. Subscribe. Thank you all for watching. Bye bye. Arr!